Hi everyone, boy am I in the mood for a rant. The gender loonies confuse female with feminine, and the gist of the argument I want to deal with in this one goes like this. Were it not for how people choose to present themselves, there's no difference in what male and female people look like, and if you say there is, you're not a good feminist, or a feminist at all. You have a very narrow definition, an archaic definition of what women are supposed to look like, and your position is a result of your deep-rooted misogyny. First, for the benefit of any gender loonies watching, biologists define female as the sex that produces large gametes, regardless of whether we individually produce them or not. So, yes, postmenopausal women, like me, women whose reproductive system is disordered in any way, women who've had an oophorectomy, we are all members of the female sex, and by the way, the word woman is the colloquial everyday term for adult human female. Right. That should have seen most of them flouncing off to nurse their hurt feelings, and the rest will probably leave abusive comments below. Now let's talk about femininity. The term feminine is used in a few different ways, and that's apart from anything to do with grammatical categories in some foreign languages. Sometimes it's used, well, it's conflated with female, or it's used as a signifier for female. In marketing, for example, feminine products, feminine health and hygiene. These are phrases typically used to refer to products related to menstruation, which obviously is something that only happens to female people. But the word feminine is also used to refer to traits that are associated with women, that are considered to be female typical, whether innate or culturally constructed. Obviously things like what we wear, what we do with our hair, putting on makeup, these are entirely cultural and they change over time. For the autogynephilic men who LARP as women and their supporters, femininity refers to only what we look like. They are obsessed with looks, and to be fair, not just women's looks. I know people generally are far more interested in and more judgmental of women's looks than men's. Women will criticize how other women choose to appear, their choice of dress, etc. Men will remark on their physical attractiveness or lack of it. But something I think possibly distinguishes men who LARP as women from the rest of the population is that they will be just as harsh on men. I've seen it on social media. I've seen Graham Linehan being attacked a lot for what he looks like, and recently I saw another of my mutual Twitex followers post this, having yet again being told he's ugly as if he gives a toss. He says, "Don't these people understand that I know what I look like, and that at my age there's very little point in caring, and that they are participating at best in superficial childishness, and at worst in the patriarchal perpetuation of regressive gender roles, and that they're twats." Exactly. The majority of their attempts to insult me in comments they leave below my videos involve judgments on what I look like or on my age or both. This one is a classic. Please learn how to present more like a woman as you need help. Tell me you're a bitter, jealous man without telling me or showing us what you look like. Here's one I rather enjoyed. Last year, this guy who calls himself Heathen Granny left this comment beneath one of my videos. "Hey, go take your estrogen." No, sorry, I won't impersonate him because I don't know actually what he sounds like. Hey, go take your estrogen, your menopause is showing, you TERFs look like you need some of our HRT, and also you cannot be a feminist and be transphobic because transphobia is rooted in misogyny. Okay, I won't bother with the last part of this sentence because it's obviously just stupid, but I do wish those who say this crap tried to make a serious argument out of this, you're not a feminist if you don't agree men can be women. But they never do because they know it's crap. But what intrigues me here is that this man who claims to be a woman seems to think that the menopause, which is something we all, or nearly all women go through, is something to mock and deride. But the best bit, of course, is that in trying to insult me, he was actually flattering me. As I pointed out, I am much closer to 70 than I am to 50, and the menopause is something I went through getting on for 2 decades ago. Next time he commented, having learnt that I was in fact about 20 years older than he thought I was, he said, also, most of you TERFs are white, middle-aged women in your 50s to 70s with nothing else to colonize, and you look 73 at least. Again, trying so hard to insult me using my looks and my age. But the bit I want to focus on here is this last line. You are explicitly patriarchal in your sexist beliefs, and we are not going back. We are moving forward. We are progressing while you die out. You're gonna die out. You're gonna die out. You're gonna die out. What does any of this mean? What are my sexist beliefs? Saying that sex is material reality and this matters isn't sexism. Denying it and saying men can be women if they want to be and vice versa isn't progress. Progress is accepting there is more than one way to be a man or a woman. You're still a man, even if you don't fit cultural notions of masculinity. Same for women and femininity. And while we will all, as individuals, die sometime, the truth won't. The lie that people can change what they are is ultimately untenable, and they know that, and I think their failure to browbeat every single one of us into going along with it is what gives rise to their anger and hatred of us. As for patriarchy, the term refers to a system whereby men are seen as superior and having natural dominion over women and organising society for their own benefit. This poster is not the first men's rights activist to claim that women who stand for women's sex-based rights and protections are the ones supporting the patriarchy. Of course, it makes no sense. It's trolling by gaslight. This meme was enthusiastically reposted by the execrable Billy Bragg to the delight of its creator. It depicts a symbolic handshake between TERFs and the patriarchy over the words, women have to look, behave and dress in a very specific way, otherwise they aren't real women. Now, this, of course, is the exact opposite of what we say. Even if this term TERF were only used about male exclusionary radical feminists, which of course it isn't, feminism is very much about liberating women from rigid social conventions, about how we are supposed to look and dress and behave. Probably the best illustration of just how dumb this meme is to look at some archetypal TERFs. These women were on the recent Lesbian Strength March in Leeds, marching to preserve the meaning of the word lesbian as female and same-sex attracted. And of course there was a counter-protest by entitled pervy men who demand the right to LARP as lesbians, and their handmaids, of course. Do these women look like they think women aren't real women if they don't dress and behave a certain way? You idiot, Bragg, and you, Sado fanboy, it is in fact transgenderism that reinforces stereotypes and depends on erasing women's boundaries. Transgenderism is the most pernicious illustration of patriarchy in the liberal democracies today. So I've amended the meme to reflect that accuracy. TRAs shake hands with the patriarchy, and men know best, and women must always go along with whatever men want, however much it might hurt us to do so. Make no mistake, that is the position of the trans ideologues, and I will state for the umpteenth time that not every trans identifying person goes along with that position. They don't all support every part of gender ideology, and many people who have the temerity to call themselves feminists do. Glad we got that cleared up. Now, to get to the reason why I decided to make this particular video at this time, the one accusation that has been made repeatedly by the cultists against me and against everyone else who expressed the certainty that these two obviously male boxers, Iman Khalif and Yu-ting, are indeed male, was that we were going by their looks and that we were effectively policing or gatekeeping femininity. Those of you who watched the video I made about it might recall that I went into quite a lot of detail addressing all the arguments that were being made at the time in support of the false belief that they are female. I won't repeat them all now. One question, though, that I would pose to every detractor who claims they are women, especially the ones who commented below my video, is: do you understand and accept that there is a syndrome called 46XY5ARD, 5-alpha reductase deficiency? You can read all about it on any number of websites. I talked about it in my video. It's what Caster Semenya has, and experts have said this syndrome would explain the appearance and the performance of both Khalif and Lynn. Why do you disagree? Why are you not even engaging with that question like grown-ups should? This is not about transgenderism. This is about a genuine medical condition that some tiny, tiny number of boys are born with. So what's your problem? If you don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, I'll link below to this very short video by the Paradox Institute explaining it. I think the answer to my question is that they are so invested in achieving their long-term goal of erasing women as a category defined by our biological function, because that is the only way they can get what they want for themselves, which is to be accepted as women for all intents and purposes. Starting from a deeply entrenched position that men who identify as women are in fact women. Some of them either watched my video or skimmed through the transcript. Their brains, whatever they have that passes for one, are switched off until such time as they find me saying something that they think fits the narrative that they desperately want to be true. This means that they disregard everything I say that contradicts that narrative. It doesn't even register. They have no compunction in attributing to me views that I do not hold, that I have neither expressed nor implied, and that I have very frequently expressed the exact opposite of. What they do is attack a massive straw man of their own creation. In my video, I mentioned the boxers' looks, but I didn't talk about them in detail. I also played brief recordings of their very male-sounding voices, but I couldn't have made it any clearer. That point I really want to ram home is that at the bottom line, it's not about looks and it's not about voices. The reason thousands of people are saying Lynn and Khalif are men now, when they haven't done in the past, is because the IBA reported that they had both been tested and shown to have XY chromosomes. And yet my detractors accused me of saying Khalif and Lynn aren't women purely because of what they look like. Some examples. It never ceases to amaze me how the supposed feminists just attack women over not looking feminine enough rather than admit they were wrong. You literally just make an entire argument on just appearance. Why attack women like that? This is so dishonest. Thank you to everyone who challenged this lunatic. And this one accuses me of appealing to arbitrary purity testing, by which he means the genetic tests carried out after several boxing officials reported their suspicions, to justify my intuitions about what real women look and sound like, as if I didn't know. Your abject hatred of women who don't meet your standards of femininity is sick, but what do you expect from the mindless hatred of such pure misogyny? And J.K. Rowling hates women too, apparently. The very fact that yourself and all the other wankers attempted to slur and demonize a woman simply because she does not look feminine enough is just the chef's kiss of misogyny. Shame on you. Pure projection on your part. I don't usually use the analogy with race, but how is this different from a racist calling a black person racist for daring to stand up to them about something that demonstrably hurts black people? Seriously, what is the difference? Apart from the fact that they pretend to be the ones being hurt and oppressed, when in reality these people are punching down on us. The word misogyny means contempt for women, which is what you are showing when you refuse to engage honestly with what we are actually saying, with the reasons why we are saying these two boxers are male and shouldn't be in the ring with women. This complete disregard for women potentially getting injured and being cheated out of the success they deserve. It's the very epitome of misogyny. And talking of racists, here's a meme from Twitex that I saw several times about this graphic. Iman Khalif really resembles Princess Diana. This is proof that transphobia is rooted in racism. Transphobia? Again, it's not about transgenderism. He's a man with a DSD, a difference of sex development. But yeah, there is a striking resemblance. They've both got two eyes, a nose and a mouth. Incredible. Personally, I think he looks even more like J.K. Rowling, who ironically is the woman he's trying to sue for calling him a man. But, oh, isn't the likeness uncanny? It really is quite disturbing the extent to which people are prepared to lie to themselves to deny the differences between men and women's natural appearance. So let's look at them. I'll start with one that was part of the same Twitex conversation I showed at the beginning. Adult males are physically different, but not every female is going to look like what your dictate a female's looks like. You're misogynist, reducing femaleness on looks. Okay, I sense English isn't your first language. I can't believe the nerve of these people. This woman is female, yet looks like a man with long hair. Are you ready to see the woman who looks like a man with long hair? Here she is. Does she look like a man at all? Even a tiny bit? Adam's apple even? No, of course she doesn't. So what's he on about? Well, this is the whole of his tweet. We see two pictures of the same woman who, in spite of an extremely muscular body, she's presumably a bodybuilder, is unmistakably female from the neck upward and the waist down, which perfectly illustrates my point that regardless of how we wear our hair or anything else, men and women look different. Why do many trans-identifying men have facial feminization surgery? Why is it even called feminization surgery. From the Johns Hopkins Medicine website, facial feminization surgery are procedures designed to create a more feminine appearance of the face for patients undergoing gender affirmation treatment. They can reshape the forehead, brows, nose, cheeks and jaw, as well as minimize the appearance of an Adam's apple. And there's the non-surgical stuff like fillers and whatever as well. That's what I'm talking about. And most of us are pretty good at spotting the differences. Quote from this piece in MIT News: "Our brains are incredibly good at processing faces and even have specific regions specialized for this function." Neuroscientists at the McGovern Institute for Brain Research measured the response of the brain to faces in real time and found that the brain first decodes properties such as gender, by which they mean sex, not gendered hairstyles or anything, and age before drilling down to the specific identity of the face itself. And by identity, they mean who the face belongs to. Is it someone you already know? If you happen to find yourself face to face with some woman in some completely random location, you are likely just from her face to see instantly that she is female and that she's young or old or middle-aged before you even recognize her as your work colleague or your ex-girlfriend or your mother. An example from my own recent experience was this one. I was highly amused to see this post from someone calling himself Femme, another anonymous men's rights activist. But before I read his words, I saw the photos and I saw instantly that it was a young man and a young woman who look rather alike. Siblings, perhaps. But I didn't recognize either of them as famous initially. Then I read his comment: "As humans, we recognize features stroke appearances we associate with gender." Yes, of course we do. That is why we get trans-identifying men boasting about being mistaken for real women and whistled at by men from passing trucks or from the other side of a very wide street. He says, "Scarlett and Walken are my favourite example of this. They're identical in features. Hair plus makeup says male or female to us, not bones." You wish. It turns out this is a young Christopher Walken. He must be about 80 years old now. And Scarlett Johansson, who is still pretty young, probably about half Walken's age now in real life. Identical in features? Really? Are you sure? Let's compare other pictures of the young Christopher and the young Scarlett. You still think they're identical? You can't see any difference at all in their brows, eyes, nose, lips, cheekbones and chin? Because if you can't, then I'm so sorry, but this could mean that the region in your brain that is specialized for spotting those differences isn't working as it does in most of us. Or you're just lying to yourself. I mean, this has got to be one of the dumbest things they do. Show a couple of pictures where two people look rather similar in some way for 1 second in time and make something of it. Show different pictures taken on a different day or from a different camera angle and they look completely different. Oh, by the way, one of the daftest comments I got was that Yu-ting was a woman because he looks exactly like his mother. By that reasoning, I have another daughter. Again, there are differences between men and women's faces. They may be very slight with some people, but we don't have to rely on just facial features to tell people apart. Men and women also have different bodies, Obviously, here's the lady bodybuilder again. We can't quite see, but I would put money that there is no bulge in her shorts. Her hands look quite small. Women are typically smaller and slighter than men, and these differences hold true in all ethnic groups, though frustratingly there seems to be almost zero research studying the extent of those differences in all the other groups apart from Europeans. This study measured the faces of over 1,500 white adults and found that on average male faces are 7.3% larger than female faces. Sex is associated with significant facial shape differences in the entire face as well as in each sub-region. The largest differences are in the shape of the brow, jaw, nose and cheek. And white people are said to have the biggest differences between male and female. So I don't know about the degree of difference, but I can say that I've only found information about white men having facial feminization surgery. As we've already seen, this supposedly greater difference is being used to suggest that saying Khalif doesn't look female is racist. I'm having quite a lot of trouble computing that one. It seems to be saying that Arab women look more like men, and because of that, we are being racist for not recognizing that an Arab man who looks exactly like a man and has XY chromosomes is a woman, if that's what it says on his passport. That is real clown world reasoning. I looked at stock photos of Arab women and found pictures of a model who looks a bit like Khalif. Can you see any difference at all? What about now that the Algerians have decided to perpetuate this massive fraud by putting makeup on Khalif, not to mention the filters then applied to the photos and footage? As Angela Wilde posted, you can put makeup on anything, even a potato, and it will end up looking feminine. But he still has the male typical features that are a result of going through a male puberty, not a female one. Biologist Colin Wright pointed out that applying thick layers of makeup requires far more time and effort than simply making DNA tests results public. So why doesn't he do that? Same for the Taiwanese authorities and their man, the rabbit punch specialist Lin Yu-ting. You might know that they contacted the UK feminist group Fair Play for Women, demanding that they removed social media posts stating that Lin is male. Director Nicola Williams responded by asking them to confirm that Lin has XX chromosomes and an ordinary female phenotype and testosterone levels in the normal female range, which they haven't done for some reason. What could it be? There is one surefire way to determine whether someone is genetically male, and that is with a test that shows whether they have a Y chromosome. Now, that's not necessarily the end of the story as far as sports is concerned, because there are very rare cases of people who are genetically male, but they are phenotypically female, and they don't go through a male puberty and get all the resulting advantages in terms of their physical prowess. The Olympic boxers are not phenotypically female. When I say, how do you explain the fact that they have XY chromosomes and look 100% male, that is all I'm asking. I'm asking for your explanation, given that you don't accept the explanation offered by biologists who've publicly provided one. They have no explanation. The truth is that they have leapt onto this controversy in an attempt to use it for political aims when they could have kept well out of it. They could have said, okay, this is a medical matter, nothing to do with trans-identifying men in sport. Let's leave it to the experts. Instead, they've resorted to, what will inevitably prove to be a doomed attempt to gaslight us, to try to twist reality using silly and dishonest accusations about policing how women are supposed to look and behave. It's just pathetic. Bye.